If I travel back to 1969 and I was frozen in 1967, presumably I could go visit my frozen self. But if I'm still frozen in 1967, how could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed?
Alongside The Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, and Richard Nixon getting tossed into a bleached grave, 1994 rewarded mankind with Timecop. Nominally based on a limited-run comic published by Dark Horse in 1992, we follow this chrononautical crime fighter as he kicks his way through history. Timecop's idea of police work amounts to little more than toe-punting dudes in the face, its vision of 2004 is a corny embarrassment, the chorus line of temporal plot holes sets a low bar for pseudo-scientific gibberish, and Jean-Claude Van Damme routinely gets outacted by his haircut. But it's still so good. It's the kind of mid-budget, high-concept R-rated action that died with the adult-oriented box office, and it's wonderfully silly in all the right ways. Not to mention, the villain is an entitled, old-money, pro-life, anti-immigrant mouth-breather who buys an election with ill-gotten money in order to elevate the rich and kill off the working class. How's that for prescient?
Have a nice day.
It was subsequently spun off as a TV show, which was immediately cancelled, before a belated, incredibly cheap-looking straight-to-video sequel that totally squanders the opportunity to go back and waste the king of jerks. This seminal work of Van Damme Thank You Ma'am was far from the first or last time an on-screen officer traded in their beat patrol for some paradoxically complicated shenanigans. Regardless of the historical period, a detective's job hasn't changed much out with the technology at their disposal. They cross-examine, work the scene, before shutting things down with a pair of cuffs or a couple of bullets. Time after time teaches these old tricks to a new dog, with one of the most out-there concepts of 70s science fiction. How's this for a plot? Famed author H.G. Wells channels his inner sleuth as he uses his time machine to hunt down Jack the Ripper in 1970s San Francisco. The fish-out-of-water time traveller tropes and out-of-their-depth detective are melded here beautifully and stretch beyond the superficiality of an immediate culture shock. Wells, who viewed himself as a socialist, progressive feminist, whilst hiding some pro-eugenics, anti-Semitic skeletons in his closet, starts off imagining the future as a crime-free utopia of selfless humanitarianism and equality for all. During his investigation, however, he's forced to reckon with a world of wasted potential, marred by warfare, sexism, and rampant capitalistic greed. In this beguiling age, the life-ending evil he's trying to bring to justice has been normalised to the point of banality. Now, once Saucy Jack starts killing again, why doesn't Wells just rewind a bit and stop him? Yeah, not a single capable person in any of these films considers taking a mulligan when they screw up.
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
Yes.
Taken as a product of its time, it's a carefree, hard-to-categorise romp that's worth it for the bonkers premise, game performances, and the single greatest utterance of "Mama didn't raise no fool" ever caught on camera.
You let her go and I'll throw it to you.
Oh no.
My mother was rather an atrocious woman in her way, but her many failings did not include raising mentally deficient sons.
Turns out that the endless possibilities presented by time travel pairs effortlessly with the creative deduction and piece-by-piece plotting of boilerplate crime fiction, even when applied to, say, the grindhouse muck of 1984's Trancers. Distributed by Empire International, former purveyor of zero-budget genre flicks that transcended their trashy foundations, Trancers is a surly, stumbling joy of basement dirt and lofty camp. Our intrepid gumshoe, Jack Death, yes, that's his name, and yes, it is amazing, travels back to the 80s from a distant apocalyptic future to stop a megalomaniac cultist psychically morphing humanity into a horde of obedient zombies. As a bonus, we're blessed with an early career fresh-faced Helen Hunt as Death's guide/age-inappropriate love interest. You get to see a brawl with a feral Santa Claus, not to mention a progenitor to bullet time that's as janky as it is adorable. The ability to transmit your consciousness into the past using the body of a distant ancestor as a vessel was a novel variation on the formula, and its underappreciated influence can be found in everything from Quantum Leap and Source Code, all the way to the Assassin's Creed franchise. There's a cavalier punk rock swagger somewhere between Repo Man and Dirty Harry you're not likely to find anywhere else.
And it's on my terms.
If you'd prefer some far better made and infinitely more fatalistic twists on the Timecop blueprint, look no further than La Jetée and its masterful feature-length reimagining, 12 Monkeys. Both show the subjectivity of memory when used as a source of evidence, and how the seemingly irrefutable can so easily unravel in the light of context, conflicting testimony, and fresh perspective. There are clashes with superior officers, undercover investigations, and a jaded resignation that what has happened will always happen, and understanding the hows and whys isn't enough to alter an inevitable end.
Time travel shit just fries your brain like an egg.
The sorely underrated Predestination runs in similar circles of crime-stopping cause and effect, albeit with some mind-bending questions of its own. Namely, what becomes of determinism when someone can manipulate past and future events? Is free will a paradox, a myth, or an invisible guiding truth? Ultimately, Predestination quadruples down on the scientific assertion that any attempt to change the past will inadvertently conform to a predetermined order of events. If what transpires could be prevented, it never would have occurred to begin with. Which is such a cosmic downer that a couple of these clock-watching law enforcers choose to rally against fate, dialing into a more hopeful past to correct an off-kilter present. Frequency chronicles a series of two-way conversations broadcast over a 30-year gap, as a cop tries to avert a series of murders by trading notes and evidence with his 3 decades in the past father. Unlike the other examples where I was just constantly screaming, "Oh my god, who cares if you cocked up? You've got a fucking time machine, just go back and try again." In Frequency, there's no turning back the dial and no do-overs. The 2 points in time, 1969 and 1999, are parallel and moving forward second by second with a fixed linearity. It brings back some welcome race-against-the-clock tension that's often lost to this niche subgenre. As for the detective shtick, the methods of gathering and exchanging evidence between the two timelines is handled in an ingenious yet simple manner. One detective tracing his way back from a murder to pinpoint a culprit, whilst his partner in the past works towards a predefined moment in an attempt to undo injustice. Now all the examples I've given are well worth a watch, and there's not enough room in this video to cover the overwhelming number of time-travelling police officers in literature, nor the wide array of television shows stemming from the cross-pollination of procedural crime-solving and history-hopping hijinks. With that said, there are a few more films I'd be remiss not to mention. Demolition Man takes shots at a future so pacified that the appearance of one 20th century psychopath begets complete societal collapse. The only known cure, his foul-mouthed, toilet-shy LAPD analogue. Deja Vu is an overlooked Denzel Washington vehicle where a forensic team of scientists and investigators look through a window into the past to scrub for clues and capture the culprit in real time. Minority Report is one of the better Steven Spielberg films of the last 20 years, finding strange and unsettling avenues to explore with its take on tech fear and precognition. Source Code blends time loops, alternative dimensions, and astral possession for a lightning-fast romp with a happy ending that's perversely cruel once you fathom its implications. And Looper, which doesn't make one shred of sense if you pick at its logic for even a second, but it does offer a wildly entertaining neo-western, where the protagonist and antagonist are one and the same.
I don't want to talk about time travel shit. Because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws.
For as done to death and inescapable as the police procedural has become across the media landscape, bold and fantastically eccentric alterations do crop up. We've had interdimensional cops, werewolf cops, space cops, even kindergarten cops. So long as real-life law enforcement continues to disturb and disgust on a daily basis, I think I'll put my faith in these badge-wearing, science-defying fictional folks instead. An unhinged Brad Pitt performance for our Patreon producers, Jennifer C., Claire MD, Becky O, and Nicholas Lair Revere, and a high-kicking Jean-Claude Van Damme for all the folks here who support us so kindly over at Patreon. So what Timecop films did I miss? Also, if none of you've seen the TV show Travelers, do yourself a favour and binge it right away. The best way to help us out is to click subscribe, like, leave us a comment, and share this to social media and Reddit. But if you're feeling especially generous, click the link to our Patreon in the description below and help us keep the lights on while getting your name in the credits, access to our private Discord, and membership to the In Frame Out Film Club. Once again, thank you for watching. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.